If Kevin James can play Sean Payton on TV, well then Sean Payton decided it might be time for him to give TV a shot.
And I'm a kind of a Ted Lasso fan.
And I'd like to thank Kevin James for giving us a sneak peek at what the Saints will look like without Sean Payton.
How many of y'all had a log?
Welcome to That's Good Sports. I am Brandon. The Saints are officially screwed, Perna. 1 year without Drew Brees was too much for Sean Payton to handle. The Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, Trevor Siemian, Ian Book experiment failed. And all it cost the Saints was a possible Hall of Fame head coach. Today, I'll tell you why this might actually be Jeff that guy's fault, and how it affects the quarterback free agent market and the current head coaching market, and who might be the front runner to land the Saints gig. That's good sports. Hey, if you want to stay abreast of that titillating NFL news, subscribe to this YouTube channel. I do a pretty good job at covering all things NFL related. I do an even better job at making damn fine coffee. Benchwarmerbrew.com. If you want to support this channel, you can purchase my coffee. Consider using the subscription service of our coffee to have it delivered to you whenever you'd like, because it'll save you 25%. We've got 3 blends, 5 Points Urinating Trees, and mine. So if you're a coffee head, check it. Normally, this is the part of the video where I start by telling you about Sean Payton's legacy and stats. What he did for New Orleans. That he won the team a Super Bowl after Hurricane Katrina. And as head coach, he got that dub by having the cojones to start the second half with an onside kick. That Sean Payton, with 16 years as head coach, was the second longest tenured coach in the league. That he had a record of 152-89. And during that time, the Saints won the NFC South 7 times. The only teams with more division titles in that span were the Patriots and Packers. Instead of telling you all of those things, which I definitely did not just do, I want to pay tribute to Sean Payton for something even more impressive. I admire Sean Payton for following in the footsteps of one Tom Brady and quitting on his team as soon as things got the tiniest bit difficult. How difficult, might you ask? Well, the Saints now don't have a head coach, a quarterback, and their one great wide receiver, Michael Thomas, doesn't even want to play for them and didn't this year. They're going to be $78 million over the cap next season, and the only round they have extra draft picks in is the 4th, which makes New Orleans an unappealing destination for any head coaching candidate. Speaking of Brady, though, based on his own words from his own podcast, whatever the hell it's called, retirement seems like a legit possibility for him. But if what I just mentioned is true, I guarantee Brady does not retire. The Saints defeated the Bucs twice this season, twice the season before, essentially costing them a shot at the first round bye. With Sean Payton gone, Brady's path to the Super Bowl just got a lot easier. And when things look easy, Brady comes back. Now, from my point of view, New Orleans overperformed this year. The fact that they were in the playoff hunt until the end of the season is a sign of how good of a coach Sean Payton is and the level at which that defense performed. I like Kevin James, but if I had to watch him interpret my life, I may question everything as well. Despite underrated success, there were too many challenges for Sean Payton this season.
They felt that this was coming, and certainly this is something Sean Payton has been weighing. He went away on vacation, he went dark on everyone close to him. He clearly wanted to consider his options, and it sounded like this year was extremely, extremely challenging for him. From the COVID to the quarterback situation to all the injuries, they didn't make the playoffs. It was just difficult, and he felt like he wanted to step away, probably not retire, but step away.
So yeah, per the NFL Network, Sean Payton took a vacation to Cabo, which is why I dress like this, evaluated his status as an NFL head coach, and after 10 margaritas said, fuck it, that shit is too hard, this vacation living is nice. Per the NFL Network, those were his exact words. Again, Payton was with the Saints for 16 years, the only coach longer tenured than Sean Payton was indeed Bill Belichick. And now Mike Tomlin slips into that number 2 spot as he was hired a year after Sean Payton. Now, Payton is under contract for 3 more seasons. So if this is a hiatus and he wants to keep coaching, it has to be for the Saints, which could happen after a year off. He did that once when the NFL suspended him for a year because of Bountygate, which is what the Kevin James movie is about if you didn't know, or if he wants to coach somewhere else, which is probably more likely, New Orleans would have to trade him. One reason Sean Payton may be stepping away from the game is because Fox Sports may be very interested in bringing him into the broadcast booth as a color commentator, as there are rumors that Troy Aikman may be leaving to broadcast at Amazon. And that's why you can blame the king of dick-shaped rockets, Jeff Bezos, for Sean Payton leaving the game. That said, I'd love to hear Sean Payton in the broadcast booth. He's been one of the most consistently successful head coaches in the league and is an offensive genius. That's the kind of dude I want to hear talk about football. Now, why might an outside coach consider the Saints? Well, again, they do have a tremendous defense right now, and most of their key players are under contract. One thing that might scare them away, though, is that salary cap, $78 million over, and that ain't easy to fix. Payton could make it work in spite of that, but I don't know if that's a situation most coaches want to inherit, especially considering to get under the cap, they're going to have to cut some of those key talented players I just mentioned. A Michael Thomas trade would free up a big chunk of that money, and I think that's likely. And I think New Orleans can draft a receiver with their 18th pick if they want. But after Michael Thomas, I don't know where you even start with your cuts and restructures, as you're still well over $50 million from getting under. The 2 guys that made New Orleans appealing, and Drew Brees and Sean Payton, are gone. It would be like if you took the beaches and strippers out of Florida. It's no longer a destination. It's Arkansas. I doubt the Saints can compete for some of the top head coaching choices out there right now, like Dan Quinn, Nathaniel Hackett, Kevin O'Connell, Brian Flores, etc. Most of those coaches are going to get offers probably starting this week, which is why I think the most likely next head coach is currently a Saint. Now, to comply with the Rooney Rule, the Saints do have to interview outside minority candidates. Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn has been rumored as a candidate and would satisfy part of that requirement, as would someone like Eric Bieniemy or Brian Flores. And all 3 of those guys are legit candidates that I think would be strong choices for a team that's been kind of left out to dry on the back end of the hiring cycle. Now, Glenn was the Saints defensive back coach for 4 seasons, so he might be a great fit for the job, and if anyone can come in and display the same offensive creativity as Payton, it might just be Eric Bieniemy. Hell, New Orleans could draft their next QB at pick 18, which could lure a coach there. The best bet would be the Saints promoting an internal candidate like their defensive coordinator Deenis Allen, who was a head coach previously with the Raiders. Allen turned around the Saints defense in 2017, a couple years into his tenure. You can trust him to keep the strength of that team, the defense, operating exactly like it currently is. My hope is that Allen gets another shot and someone finally updates his Wikipedia picture, which is one of the worst I've ever seen. Although, if you've ever spent any time on Bourbon Street, this is exactly how Sean Payton looked to your drunk eyes. I also think this eliminates the Saints as an option for Russell Wilson, assuming they could even make that contract work in the first place. Sean Payton was the only reason Danger Russ would waive his no-trade clause for the Saints. Payton is still an elite coach and had the Saints destined for the playoffs before their quarterback situation blew apart to the point where Ian Book was starting must-win games and authoring losses for the black and gold. At the end of the day, they're an offense without many playmakers at wide receiver or tight end, especially when Michael Thomas's status is uncertain. That makes them significantly less appealing for any quarterback, so I think trying to make it work with a healthy Jameis could be their best bet.
One of the best back tandems.
Now, the last NFLer to join the broadcast booth and then return to the league was Cowboys tight end Jason Witten. My assumption is Payton wants to go to the booth because it's a much better way to make a living than being an NFL head coach. The money's great and the schedule's nicer. But if he does return, I think it will be to coach for the Dallas Cowboys after Jerry Jones fires Mike McCarthy mid-season and has nobody to replace him with since Dan Quinn will probably be elsewhere. Denver, my guess. Payton has framed this as a stepping away from the team and not retiring, which leads many to believe his return is very likely. We just don't know when or where. But if he does return and he's on the table to go to another organization, he will be the hottest choice there is. Thanks for watching another episode of That's Good Sports. Please subscribe here on YouTube. Check out the video on the screen if you'd like to watch another video. I put the best and worst of the divisional playoff rounds where I touch on all the games and all the crazy things that happened.